We acknowledge and pay respects to elders, past, present, and the emerging, who have given us time, knowledge, and guidance. We appreciate the rich contribution and resilience that First Nation people offer to Western Sydney University. Off to Justin.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. My wheels are falling off. No, they're not. So, hey, everyone. I too, as my name, social work unit coordinator, academic course advisor for social work program at Liverpool. And I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and the emerging leaders that are coming through, and acknowledge their contribution to our greater understanding of mental health and well-being that we've gained from being more open to listening to Aboriginal First Nations people about their experiences. So I too would like to acknowledge their contribution and look forward to a greater reconciliation in this country of ours here in Australia. Kamal, did you want to do the housekeeping?
Yeah, I think many of our students are already aware with the rules, but still I will say, like, please turn on your cameras, and if possible, please put your professional photo on, and please turn off your microphones. And if there's any question, please enter questions in the chat box, and we will take questions at the end of the session. Yeah, and please be there, and there will be one half an hour other session for AASW. Yeah, thank you so much.
That's great. So I'd like to welcome Marwa Kachban, who's very kindly going to give us an understanding of Headspace as an employer and a potential recruiter for students, people graduating from with a social work degree. Make sure you put your questions into the chat box, and we'd really like to hear everything that Marwa's got to say. So over to you, Marwa.
Thank you, Justine. Hello, everyone. My name is Marwa. I am here today at Headspace Bankstown. I will share my screen shortly, but I thought I'll give a mini introduction of who I am and what I do. So I'm a Service and Community Development Officer. So I will preface this to everyone. I'm not a social worker by background. However, in my role, I do work with clinicians who have a social work background, as well as other clinicians from my backgrounds. So I thought I'll let you all know that. So you can't really, I guess, have high expectations of me answering too technical stuff. So yeah,
secret social worker business. No.
So I'll share my screen if that's okay with everyone. Let me know if you can't see it, or if you can. Give me 1 second. Gotta love technology these days. Okay, cool. Can everyone see my screen? Sweet. I see thumbs up. I'll make it full screen. So yes, that's my name, Marwa, and we'll be talking about Headspace as a service, as an organisation, and a little bit about what we do, who we, I guess, who our target clients are, and some interesting points as social workers, things that you might find useful. So yeah, and at any time, please feel free to ask questions as well. So this is what we'll get into about today, and we'll have an opportunity at the end to have a Q&A as well, and just in case I've missed anything, or if you want to know a bit more. So a little bit about us. So there's a lot of info here. Don't worry about it. I'll basically summarize it for you. So we've been in practice since 2006. We are funded by the federal government, but we are a non-government organisation. So if you understand how funding works, there's a bit of I guess trickling of how the funding goes down the ladder. So yeah, we have approximately 130 centres across Australia. So that's a lot of us. The main, I guess, the most centres we have is here in New South Wales. And we do provide youth mental health predominantly, but we also have other core streams, which we'll talk about, but mainly to young people aged 12 to 25. And yeah, basically Headspace came about because there was a gap in young people accessing mental health or mental health care. So that's why we're here. And hopefully we're able to help as many young people as needed. So as I said, there's quite a lot of us around the country. If you know, there's if you're lucky, you can visit any of us. There's no really barriers or anything except for COVID nowadays. But there's also Headspace, which is an online form of counselling that's available. You can either call or use it through chat. There's also group counselling or group chats that you can join, or young people that can join. And there's also information and resources, not just for young people, but also for teachers, school counsellors, and for their family and friends. So that's a good resource to start. And then we also have school support, which is another, I guess, division within Headspace. And school support, they predominantly focus on providing suicide postvention and suicide prevention support for schools. So they work closely with staff. And yeah, so that's them. So we kind of liaise between all of those people. So at our centre, we are, as I said, an entry point for all young people aged 12 to 25. Of course, we do work with families as well if a young person is aged 11 and they're turning 12. Each Headspace centre runs things a little bit differently. So if someone is 25 and they're turning 26, it's not just, I guess, a quick cut off and say, no, we can't see you anymore. We work together closely to find a way that can ensure that they're still supported even after they're out of our age range. So we aren't a crisis service. This is something that we often get asked, can we call up and ask, someone is in crisis, needs immediate help. We do focus on early intervention and prevention. So yeah, we refer to crisis services, but in saying that, we also have a no wrong door policy. So whoever we get, we won't push them away, if that makes sense. No geographical catchment areas. What this means is if a young person wants to come to Headspace Bankstown, where I'm at today, but they live in, say, Liverpool, that's no issue. There's no limitation in terms of, I guess, criteria for who we accept. So it's a good opportunity or way to increase accessibility for young people. And, say they live next to a Headspace centre, but they're worried some of their friends or family might see them, they can attend another Headspace centre. So there's no limit in that sense. We are completely free. All of our services are free. A Medicare card is only required when a young person would like more longer term support. So support with a psychologist or even other health services that we offer, such as seeing a GP or a dietitian or things like that, or even a psychiatrist. We have a very diverse team, and I'll get into this in a bit more detail later on as well. So as I said, I work with clinicians who come from a social work background, but I also work with clinicians who have a nursing background, psychology background, clinicians who have kind of grown and developed their skills and got their degrees as they've been working with us at Headspace. So very multidisciplinary and diverse. So as I said, age 12 to 25, that's all that there is to it. We're pretty accepting and we pride ourselves on being very inclusive to everyone. So yeah, pretty straightforward, that one. So this is what I wanted to get into a bit more detail. So we have 4 core streams. If you've heard of Headspace, you may commonly know that we do provide mental health support. That's kind of the thing that we're most known for. However, we also do provide support in terms of general health. So that's where our GP might come in if a Headspace centre has a GP, or even a sexual health clinic. We also provide support within alcohol and other drugs. So we have here in Headspace Bankstown and Headspace Campbelltown and Liverpool, they also have the same program. It's called Head First, FYRST, and that's delivered by the Salvos or Salvation Army. And the Head First program focuses on providing support for young people within with alcohol and other drug issues. And our lucky last core stream is education and employment support. So if a young person has any issues within education or finding a job or getting skills to be able to find a job that they want, we'll be able to help them with that. So we're a one-stop shop, you could say. A little bit of the other things that we do run groups, and this is where my role comes into play as well. So we've got our YG, or our Youth Reference Group. They are lovely volunteers, and they are passionate young people who advocate for mental health, and they help us out with a lot of things within our centre. Every Headspace centre has a Youth Reference Group, so it's really great. Youth mentors, they're kind of with the YRG, but I guess they've had a bit more experience, so they get to mentor other young people. We have our LGBTQIA+ youth group. We also have our student support group. Sometimes, each Headspace Centre will run different groups. There are a combination of clinical and non-clinical groups. And of course, our youth reference group is a volunteer group, so I guess kind of separate to that. And the last one is family support. So we like to incorporate family as much as we can, and as long as it's safe to do so, because of course, supporting young people is about supporting their environments as well. And lucky last here, we've got community awareness. So whether that's going out to events or hosting events ourselves, staying active on social media, that's really important these days since there's hardly any, I guess, in-person contact anymore. But slowly, we're getting there. And also presenting at schools and facilitating workshops as well. So that's about our service. Here's some key features. So we do pride ourselves on being youth-led, and this is where our youth reference group help inform our decisions. So for example, we might even invite them, or we often do invite them to be on our interview panels. So if we're hiring new staff, we'll get them to be involved, because that'll obviously help us recognize if a staff member is youth friendly, if they're approachable, if they're suitable for our service, if there's someone who would be comfortable, or young people would be comfortable in front of. So yeah, that's how we do that. We remove barriers, being free, being accessible in terms of geographical catchment areas. We try to really enforce that and reduce the wait times in seeing a psychologist as well. That's kind of repetitive. I won't go into that. Respect for family involvement. So this is a big key, especially here in Bankstown. We find, we have a high COLD, or culturally and linguistically diverse population. So, family is highly valued. Across everywhere, across the world. But, when you have a culturally diverse demographic or, group of young people, you find that sometimes issues can be made easier, or can be resolved a little bit better if family is involved, because obviously young people are directly, in contact with family. And we partner to provide expanded services. So basically we're multidisciplinary, just repeating that as well. And depending on what young people need in our area is what we try to service for. So this goes a little bit more into technical details. I'll kind of skim over it because it's not too important, I guess. But every Headspace Centre is run through a lead agency. So our lead agency here at Headspace Bankstown is called Flourish Australia. It's a non-government organisation as well. And Flourish Australia actually has 4 different Headspace centres. They've got Parramatta, Castle Hill, Bankstown and Broken Hill. Nice and rural out in Broken Hill. But yeah, so that's kind of how it works. And then PHN manages that. We also have consortia, and they're a bunch of different services. might involve schools, it might involve police officers within the area, anyone who works with young people and might provide some valuable information and or information sharing. We try to incorporate them or get them involved into our consortium to help, help provide better services within the area. And again, we're youth-led. Can't say that enough, hey. So I'll give everyone to process all of that information. Let me know if I'm going too fast. So our team, as I mentioned, we do have a very diverse team. So this is an example of who our staff includes or consists of. Here you might, in the middle, you might see in the orange box PPs. That just means private practitioners. And they might involve dietitians or psychiatrists. Sometimes if we have specialists as well, different specialists. So yeah, that's what they consist of. Yeah, YIG, we spoke about AOD, aqua and other drugs. Yeah, just in case the abbreviations don't make sense. So these are our other, I guess, specialists or other organisations that we work with as well. In terms of within our consortia as well, some organisations we work with are One Door Mental Health, Lifeline, Black Dog Institute. We also work with New Access. So pretty much anyone, or even Relationships Australia, ACON, we really try to kind of diversify the support systems we can provide to young people. And obviously it'll tap into the 4 core streams that we help provide as well. So our current focus, with the current climate these days as well, it's obvious, or maybe not so obvious, but it's been reported in the media more often nowadays that there is an increase for mental health support across the world, internationally. So of course, with young people, it's kind of hit a lot harder as well because of just having so much changes at one time. So we are looking at ways to decrease wait times. There are some new allocations of funding for that. So, every Headspace Centre or every youth service as well would be trying to find ways to better support the people that they support, for lack of a better word. And yeah, so we're working together with our community, trying to resolve those issues and try and keep up with the demand. So yeah, our other core current focus. So not every Headspace Centre is able to, I guess, facilitate or provide each core stream equally. So at the moment, one of the ways that we're trying to build and strengthen is our employment and education stream. So there's a networking opportunity. But yeah, so these are the ways that we're trying to focus on, or things that we're trying to focus on at the moment. So here are some top tips. Maybe get a pen out if you don't already. But basically, the key skills for as a social worker, some of the common skills that are really important to work at Headspace, but also within the youth field in mental health, include effective communication. So this goes into being able to communicate certain ideas and be able to work with young people or even their families as well, particularly if they don't come from an English-speaking background, being able to communicate things in a way that's easy and safe to understand, and also bring that back to the team that, or the other people that you work with, and making sure that there are no gaps and ensuring that your communication is up to a high standard. Time management is really important. You'll find that by the time you kind of see a young person or a client, and then you've got to make the notes and you've got to, I guess, case manage and follow up on other things. So time management is really important. So we'll talk about, maintaining self-care as well. Empathy is a big skill you're going to need if you don't have it already. So if you can build on it, build on it. If you don't have empathy, I guess naturally, compassion can be another thing that could help as well, particularly in circumstances where you don't necessarily see or you can't exactly understand completely you know, a client's perspective on something. Maybe they're completely different. So yeah, empathy is a really important factor to have. Cultural awareness, and then also being competent within that and culturally sensitive. If you work, I mean, no matter where you work, you will come across people who come from diverse backgrounds, different beliefs than you, different upbringings. So, you know, it's important to stay open-minded and, you know, accept the differences as, you know, and be as neutral as you can, even if those things kind of challenge you. So yeah, so try to be as educated and informed as much as you can. Key knowledge to have. So you may or may not have covered like the biopsychosocial stresses. I won't go too much into detail, but yeah, so basically looking at the things that impact young people or your client, you know, beyond their issues that they tell you. So yeah, looking at the bigger picture can really help. And then also the systemic challenges. So it kind of relates to the first point, but if you keep in mind that there are bigger things that often we're not able to see in the first appointment or later on down the track. So yeah. Now, what we offer as an organisation, as you know, Headspace Bankstown, we provide supervision both internally and externally. Now, it does depend if you're a student or if you're an actual staff member. But supervision comes in the form of, you know, obviously providing support, and I guess you all know what supervision means, but yeah, providing guidance and help and support. Yeah, and professional development training. So we not only have our own kind of learning development opportunities, but if you have a specific field you'd like to divulge in a little bit more, say you want to work closer with families, or if you are interested more in alcohol and other drugs, or whatever it may be, we encourage that for you to explore your interests, and we're able to support you in that as well. And now with social work as well, you'll also find, as much as I can say from a non-social worker, but, experiential learning is really common within this industry. So it's not just about looking at what's in the book or what you've learnt at uni or anything like that. It's about seeing and practicing it. Each case will be different. Each experience you come across will be completely different, and you'll be able to learn with each experience. You'll be able to absorb more information and learn from each one. So it's really important to absorb as much as you can, and if you're able to get experience, take a hold of that, because it's a really great opportunity. So I thought I'd put in a little bit of a day in the life of a youth access clinician. So a youth access clinician are the clinicians who case manage or often are from social work backgrounds here at Headspace. Sometimes they're called youth access practitioners, but yeah. So this is, by the way, from an actual clinician from with a social work background. So this isn't from me or anything. So there's a lot of case management, of course, meetings and phone calls and following up of appointments and all of the nitty-gritty stuff that isn't much fun sometimes. And then it's, followed by a lot of meetings, whether it's review of cases or, intake. So clinical review is about specific cases or young people in this case. And site meetings is just about continual improvement within our service and making sure that the provision of care is up to maximum standards. And then of course you'll have actual appointments with clients, training if you have any scheduled or planned, and you also have to be very flexible. You'll find that in this industry there's a lot of imbalance in every day, because there'll be times where you'll have to face a crisis situation. There'll be a lot of movements around, whether it's staff, the industry is kind of known to have a high rate of staff turnover. You know, you might have a job that requires outreach, so you might go to someone's home to provide support. And of course, in this current climate, working from home. And the last one is a bit more of the fun side of things, where you'll get to join someone like me from a community development perspective, and you'll be able to join and provide support at schools or at workshops, different places like that, or even at events. So yeah, that's a day in the life of one of our youth access clinicians. Not sure if that sounds fun. So here's some mini tips. So as I said slightly like just before, build as much experience as you can. Even if it's not an experience you necessarily think will be helpful, just take it anyway, because, you know, even nowadays, it's really hard to come across an opportunity where you're able to find a workplace or an organization who you're able to learn from. And, you know, again, that experiential, you know, absorption of information, you're able to actually do what it is that, you know, you'll potentially be doing for a while in this career, in this field. Your communication skills. It's really good if you're able to look at different communication styles. So some people you'll come across really energetic, or, you know, and other people are very to the point, you know, or maybe blunt. So working on your communication skills will help you be able to adapt to different clients and different families of, you know, the people that you work with, and even your team. So being able to strengthen that will help you kind of, I guess, develop overall and be able to receive better outcomes in your daily working life. Time management. This is really important, as I said before as well. You know, time really flies throughout the day. So if you're in between appointments, following up other things, and, you know, sending off emails, you will need to develop good time management skills if you haven't already. Do find something that works for you. So it could be writing a to-do list, you know, things that you have to get done today. And if not, don't worry, don't fret too much. But, you know, maintaining a good balance to ensure that you don't get burnt out. And that kind of leads into our next one, self-care. You need to eat, you need to sleep, you are only human. So provide support, but also provide support to yourself. So that's kind of really important. And then the last one is be flexible and adaptable. Again, I feel like, you know, everyone has kind of said this a million times these days, but, you know, because of COVID, we've all had to be quite adaptable and flexible with everything that's been thrown at us this year. So being able to really pick up your books and your laptop or whatever else it is, and just be able to continue it and carry on. So yeah, everyone's resilient, believe that. So how to get in touch with us. This is where we're located and our phone number, and that's our email. You can find all of that information on our website. You just literally search Headspace Bankstown and it should be the first link that comes up. So if you do want to get in contact with us, there are our details. You can find other information there as well. I'll leave that on for a second, just in case anyone's writing it down. Okay, might move on in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I thought I'd chuck this in just because it might be beneficial to know. So the way you can make a referral to our service is it can be from a self, so it could be a young person themselves, it could be a family member, a friend, it could be a school counsellor or another organisation or service provider. And you could either do it in any of these ways. So either walking in, which might be a little difficult since, I mean, every Headspace Centre is a little bit different. Some of us are open, some of us are closed. So maybe just call or email. That might be the safest option nowadays. But yeah, so call, email. You could also fill in a service provider referral form, particularly if you're referring on behalf of someone else. And and that can be found on our website under a little tab called service referral form, sorry. So yeah, I'll leave that on for a few seconds as well, just in case anyone's writing anything down. Cool, and now we're up to the Q&A.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Marwa. I think, Kamal, were you going to handle Q&A?
Yes, sure. So there's a question that should we get extra training to work in AOD?
Good question. So in terms of if you're looking at working with the Salvation Army and their program, the Head First program, they might have some prerequisites or some recommendations to do. But in terms of Headspace, all you'll need to do is, I guess, at least have some sort of training, or and if not, we can help provide that. You can always start somewhere and then find a specialty that you're interested in, and then invest in some professional development that way. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. So another question is, are there particular organization you have relationship with for exit transitions? Sorry.
Yeah, we do. So depending on, I guess, the relationship or the age that the young person is. So there are services that don't have an age limit. So one example is Connector Hub. And I believe that is actually run, or it might be run with our lead agency, Flourish Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do is we kind of have a bit of a staggered transition from our service to the next service, whatever service we might refer to. And that's usually helpful. So it's not a big, I guess, cutoff.
And what tips you want to share with the person who is going to start their first placement in mental health field?
Nice. So that one, I guess I would recommend being open to learning anything. So if they say, oh, hey, we want to get you onto admin for a little bit, accept it, because you'd be surprised how much you learn when you're with reception, like actual admin, because, just the phone calls that they get, the systems that they use, and it's really beneficial to learn from everyone in the team, not just those that will be directly involved in with your work. And yeah, so just try to kind of get as much info as you can, and if you can ask them as well what types of readings or resources they can provide with you as well, get your hands on that as well.
And there's one question as well. Does Headspace have a new graduate program? Would a graduate without mental health experience be passed over, or is this not necessarily a requirement?
So in terms of, does that mean like in terms of employing someone?
New graduate who have no experience in mental health, or is it a mandatory requirement?
It will differ between each Headspace centre, but I know a few clinicians who have had no prior experience.
Okay.
In fact, they've got the Headspace job because of their student placement, and then they've kind of been able to get the job that way. So if you're fortunate to get a work placement with Headspace, sometimes if they're hiring or if they're in need of more staff, you can get the job that way without any other prior experience. But I guess my best advice would be to just apply, because you never know. And it's also just the experience of being on an interview as well. You can absorb a lot more information, things that you might not necessarily picked up just by reading a job ad as well.
Yeah. Is there any questions? More questions? I think, that's all.
That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marwa. Did you, was that a question somebody wanting to ask? No, I'm hearing things now. Thank you so much, Marwa. I honestly, if we had more time, I'd really love to find out more about your role, to be honest, because it sounds to me like it is such a team approach that everybody benefits from understanding what each role actually offers. Have you been there for a while?
Yeah, so I've been a part of Headspace as an organisation for a little bit over 2 years now, about 2.5, almost 3.
Wow. Well, you're an excellent ambassador for
Thank you.
the organisation. Thanks so much
Thanks,
for
Justine.
bringing your information to us. Everybody is saying thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for listening, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Now, you're very welcome to stay on if you're not in a hurry to leave. We've got our next speaker, Jack Whitney, coming on from the AASW. So up to you, Mawa. Feel free. Oh, one other thing. Would it be possible for you to share the
Presentation.
PowerPoint? Yeah, the presentation. That would be really, and then I can share it with everybody who's online at the moment.
Can do. I'll send it to you and stuff.
Awesome. Have an awesome weekend, and thanks for being here for us.
Thanks for having me. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Mawa. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you. Hey, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We now have another presentation back to back. So I'd like to introduce you to Jack Whitney, who's the president of the New South Wales branch of the Australian Association of Social Workers. We really appreciate you coming in after, I know it was quite a challenge to find time for the board members, somebody on the board who's available, but we really thank you for that. Is there anything you want from us, or are you just happy to start talking?
Yeah, yeah. No. Thank you for having me, Justine, and I appreciate the introduction. And I have a bit of a slideshow that I can present, if that's helpful.
I think that'd be great. Remember, people, pop some questions in that chat box as well. And this is our final formal presentation, so let it rip.
I understand that it's probably been a long day, so I'll just share my screen. You can all see that, yeah? Great. So, all right, let's do this. Happy Friday, everyone. All right, so your career starts here. I know that there'll be some of you that are first years and new grads and in between. So I've tried to make this a bit broad. So this is just a generic presentation that we can start off with. I first like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands on which we meet today, and respectfully acknowledging them, and that they're the ongoing custodians of the lands on which we work and live. I'm here on Gadigal land today. I know that we're probably meeting on different lands, and just respect and acknowledge the traditional owners on those lands. I also want to acknowledge we're very lucky here in New South Wales for the beautiful water, air quality, and the land on which we do our daily activities. And I really just want to acknowledge the ongoing custodians of the lands and that they've been on these lands for 60,000 more years and ongoing. And any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people watching today, and the important work of social work to build reconciliation and acknowledge the impact and the atrocities that we've done in not building tolerance or respecting community. But first, I'd like to talk a bit about my journey in social work, and it's a bit different. It's very different to some social workers. I like to call myself a political social worker in many respects, in the sense that my journey started at uni with social work. I was doing my Bachelor of Social Work, my Bachelor of Arts, and I ran for student board. I ran for student council, and I saw student governance and student welfare as hand in hand. And I saw social work really critical in that. Social work, is all about service provision. It's all about welfare and well-being and human rights, and challenging where the resources go and flow. So I ran for student board, and I ran on student welfare, sustainability, buses after school uni parties to make sure those who left the parties were safe, safety alarms across campus and things like that. But it was also a time when Tony Abbott was cutting fees to students' courses. So it was a very political time. So that's when I got involved. I got involved in the union movement as well. We ran a campaign through the social work faculty around and through student placements around building a better future. I got involved in the Sydney Alliance, which is an alliance of different community organizations that use social workers during the placements, and that was my placement as well. And I was also very passionate about student public education and student education. And then I was lucky enough to go to Indonesia for social work students in the faculty at Sydney Uni as part of the Australian Southeast Asian network and the Disability Forum, and actually worked there for a little while. So that's where today I'm wearing a few hats. So I'm co-convener of the New South Wales Gay and Lesbian Rights Lobby, where I present evidence at Parliament quite a fair few times. And there's a photo of me there challenging Mark Latham and yelling at him about stuff. But also I do a lot of policy submissions and advocate on broader policy issues. And I see social work as really integral to that. And the AASW is really integral to that as well. So the AASW I see as a really powerful vehicle in working together for our profession and providing professional excellence and social justice. Social justice is really critical to any society. We know that. And our purpose is to promote the profession of social work, advance social justice, and uphold standards and build capacity of members. And this is part of that as well. You as social work new grads and social work students, it's also about building up the capacity for you to become involved in the AASW, but also in your communities, in your work on a daily life level. So the AASW has a strong voice on most social justice, human rights issues, from refugees and asylum seekers to gay conversion therapy on a legislative level, to speaking with and being part of the voices of First Nations Australians and improving outcomes, but also working towards reconciliation. We have a lot of voices on welfare and well-being, social services sector more generally. We have 9 branches throughout the country in different states. I'm from the New South Wales State Branch, and we have benchmarks for different professional education and practice in social work. So we have the College of Social Work, where we do a lot of work around stipulating what the courses are going to be running throughout different faculties, but also maintaining the standards of social work and really highlighting what are the areas of practice that we want to look at and evolve in. To be a member of the AASW, you need to, going way too far ahead. You need a BSW, a qualified BSW from typically a tertiary university, which is Western Sydney University, or is it Western University of Sydney? I can't. Are you muted, Justine?
Sorry, Western Sydney University.
Yeah. Okay, good. I thought I may have got it wrong. But yeah, so there's different universities. There's one at UNSW, one at UCIT, my old campus, one at ACU, and there's also Faculty of New England, in Armidale, and there's also no, Macquarie doesn't have one, or UTS. So they're the main campuses, all the good ones. And graduates of accredited social work courses are eligible for AASW membership. Students of accredited social work courses are also eligible for student membership, and I'll go through the costs a bit later. So social workers from overseas are also eligible to apply for membership. So that's people from the UK, typically Canada, US, who have done a BSW equivalent. A lot of people apply to the AASW who have like a TAFE qualification or a community services or a general social science degree. And unfortunately, they're typically not eligible because the BSW is really quite specific in terms of course education and training. And that's an ongoing thing that we just have to work with. So WSW membership helps you learn, grow, and evolve throughout your social work career. It enhances your skills and knowledge, your CPD and practice. So there's CPD points that you need to require in terms of maintaining your mental health accreditation or your disability accreditation, domestic violence accreditation, things like that. We also do submissions and campaigns, so you have access to our resources online. You get support from your networks and member communities. So we have different member communities and practice groups, which I'll go through. You can also engage in the policy and causes that we are a part of. And we develop quite a significant amount of industry contacts. So for example, I got involved in Youth Action New South Wales, and I'm on the board, and I got through that through the AASW. We're very involved in NCOS. On a national level, we're involved in ACOS, and we meet with politicians quite regularly around important matters. And we also meet with academics and opinion leaders in the field. And it's also, yeah, a great way to enhance your career pathways. Did someone just ask a question?
People are posting questions as they come in, but
okay. I'll come at the end.
Come back to it, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I'm nearly there. I'll try and speed up a little bit.
No.
So the fees are $50, I think, $51, sorry, for student who's qualified or already eligible, which is pretty good. I'm pushing for free membership for students, and hopefully we get there soon. Yep, thumbs up, thumbs up. But I actually think, $51, you get your money back in terms of building your networks before you even graduate. I'm setting up a student advisory council in the branch. So if you want to get involved in that, let me know. I'll get you involved. And you don't have to be a AASW member, but the co-chairs have to be. And I've already got the co-chairs, but if you want to be involved in the advisory council, please let me know, or let Justine know, and then flick me a message. And then the membership grows after that as a new grad, and then as a non-graduate, and then we have retired membership and then life membership. And so why I am a AASW member, the AASW is critical for social work in Australia ongoing. It's about stipulating how the social work profession evolves. I said very early on that I'm a politically motivated social worker, and I see as campaigning, advocacy, public policy, working in a grassroots way is really important in the social work profession. That's going to be very different to someone who wants to develop more their clinical and therapy skills, and which is all very important, and private practice experience. And the AASW membership is a very broad church, and I think our strength is that we are able to represent all of them and also work to their strengths and their interests. So yeah, the AASW is a space where I continue to grow and connect and have professional network. Our collective voice is also, as social workers, a really important thing. I talked a bit about being part of the union movement. The union movement talks about being stronger together, and I think that it's always about being part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that's really critical in terms of the social work profession, and moving forward in terms of a collective voice around whether it's Indigenous rights or First Nations Australians or refugees and asylum seekers, or LGBTIQ rights. I think it's really critical. I care about bringing social workers together as well, and I'm really passionate about having a group of people in New South Wales who are passionate about social work, whatever that is to them, but also when we're doing a policy submission, using people's expertise and knowledge to really inform those submissions and those stories. And I'll talk a bit about the different works that we are doing at the moment on the branch level in terms of policy submissions. So the branch management committee is the governance committee of the branch. Some people refer to the board, and I'm the president of the branch. And really, it has a very different function to the national board of directors, and in that it's a state-based committee. And really, as the branch president, I work with the committee to really leverage their skills and knowledge, but also to use their strengths to really get things across the line. I chair the bi-monthly meetings in the AGM. I'm usually the spokesperson, and I do policy submissions and media opportunities and things like that, which I like doing, which is a lot of fun. And the branch provides a lot of the communication, the online social media, and we have our own Facebook page, so please go ahead and like it. Jane, our branch manager, would love that. And it's also about using members' knowledge, and we do that through the practice groups, which I'll go through in a moment. So yeah, I sort of covered all that. So the practice groups, we have quite a few. We have brain injury, we have social workers and disability, we have oncology, we have men's social work, we have private practice, Bathurst, Northern Rivers, aged care. We also have a few other ones like mental health, LGBTIQ, we have child protection. We also have different subcommittees in the branch. So we have the social policy subcommittee, which I chair, and we have the member engagement, which Marley chairs, and we have the RAP, so the Reconciliation Action Plan subcommittee, and that's co-chaired, and I'm developing currently the Student Advisory Council. So they're the different sort of channels that lead into the branch. So some resources that might be helpful for you moving forward in your professional career and your ongoing knowledge. There's the ethics and practice standards, the code of ethics, education standards and accreditation, supervision standards, and also employment and career solutions on Horizon Career Centre, where there's a lot of great resources for students. There's also ethical jobs. That's also really great. I think that's a really great place for social workers to look at some online resources, and I strongly encourage you to develop a LinkedIn. LinkedIn's really great in terms of developing your professional identity and networking more generally. And more student resources, so social work employment videos, finding social work jobs, practical guide for students, and plan your career resources, and social work online training. We have that all on the AASW website in New South Wales. Just to bring you up to speed on what we have done recently, we have done this in the last couple of months, so it's been quite busy. So we did the Anti-Discrimination Amendment Bill, where I presented evidence of Parliament. We had the Education Legislation Amendment, Parental Rights Bill, which was basically a Mark Latham bill controlling, well, basically it didn't allow teachers to acknowledge trans children in schools. So it had a really big impact on wellbeing. We do the Connected webinar series every fortnight, and Marley does that, and she's really great at doing that. She finds really great speakers. We provided a submission to the Inquiry into Hospital and Health Services in rural New South Wales. We did a submission to the review of the New South Wales school curriculum, which looked at taking out well-being of the school curriculum, which was really problematic. We hold meetings with unions and MPs on social work registration, which I'm really pushing, and watch this space. There's some good news coming out. Child protection and social service inquiry, which is currently underway, and submissions close on December, and we've pulled together something for that. And there's the New South Wales Parliament Coercive Control Bill, which is basically legislating coercive control, so texting, harassment online. It goes a step further than just saying, okay, physical violence is one sort of violence. Coercive control is actually, a lot of people say much more damaging, and leads to ongoing harassment and I'm speaking to the converted here. So that's another inquiry that's happening. We have some upcoming events, the Connected ED series, political social work, aftermath of US presidential election, and social work implications. I'll be chairing that if you want to come. And then there's an annual members meeting with the Shadow Minister, Family and Community Services, Penny Sharp, and that's on the 23rd. And we look forward to you being involved. Hopefully we see you involved. Any questions?
Very efficient, but very rich and amazing. I don't know how you find all the time for it. So as president, how do you fit it with work?
Well, I integrate things within my day, with my various hats, and I typically do more hours in the day than I should, but I integrate it within my day, and I think that's the only practical thing you can do when you have to do these important roles.
Absolutely. Well, there's a couple of questions. Imtiaz, were you going to ask those? Put him on the spot. Yeah.
So my question is, as an international student, what are the requirements for degree assessment? I know we need a degree, social work degree. We are doing Masters of Social Work qualifying, and IELTS we need 7 each band. Apart from that, is there any other qualification needed for the degree assessment?
No, if you're getting a Masters of Social Work qualifying, that meets eligibility for the AASW. If anything, it's one of the highest because it's a Masters.
Okay. Is there like a job needed for that assessment? Do I need to work in a particular field or in a social work field for the assessment or not?
No. So what you would do is you would just apply to the AASW for membership, and they would ask you what your qualification is, and you just show your degree, and you scan it up, and then they confirm it, and that's it.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Did you want to ask the other ones?
Yep. And if I move to other state, is a membership for NSW still going to be valid in other state?
Yeah. So the membership is for Australia generally, and it won't really change at all. But what could happen in the future if there's registration for social work in one state, that would be a different hurdle, and you would just have to provide that evidence because South Australia currently has a registration of social work bill, and there'll be a social work registration board established. And what happens is if you want to apply for registration of social work, you would have to submit your degree and your accreditation to the board, and they would approve it. And then you would have to do ongoing CPD, so continuing professional development, to maintain your registration. But that's a future thing. At the moment, if you're a member of the AASW, you don't have to update it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Across boundaries.
All right.
Can I, I'll ask a question, but I want to encourage people to ask as well. We've got a couple lined up for you, Jack. So
sure. I've got some time, so no worries.
That's great. With the, is it okay for people to get involved in the practice groups as a student? Can student social workers get involved in practice groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So social workers can get involved, social work students can get involved in the practice groups. They just have to look online at a specific practice group that they're interested in. They email the practice group convener or the AASW New South Wales email account, and then Jane will respond linking them with the convener, and then I'll let them know when the next meeting was.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm just giving, I tend to hog the space, that's all. I'm trying to give a space. Does the AASW have work-related or, policy initiatives happening around the green social work, environmental social work issues?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not currently aware of anything in New South Wales, but I have identified that as like a bit of a gap. And I've spoken with our current national president, Victorio, just around environmental social work. And actually, it's been identified that the bushfires and the drought and the flooding, so drought and flooding, has actually impacted communities severely. And it's actually about building resilient communities and prospering communities after disasters. And And I think social work is really well placed to do that, and works in partnership with NCOS and all these different organizations to build resilient communities. But I think we need to take it a step further. We need to talk about prospering communities in the Blue Mountains and in the Illawarra and further down. So I think there's definitely space, especially in New South Wales. I know that's a priority nationally, and I think there's definitely space here in New South Wales to get into that space.
That's great, because we heard from the Department of Communities and Justice, and because they've got that role with the emergency responses, I was just thinking, and yeah, there might be a lot of collaboration across organisations, and I think there'd be a lot of interest from the student body.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
That kind of thing.
I think that's great. I would love that.
Yeah. Okay. We'll fire them up, or not so much fire them up. People will tell us what they want to be fired up about. One question, can somebody be a member? I think you did cover this, but how early can a student join the AASW? Like,
as soon as they're a student.
As soon as they're a student. Okay,
yeah, so
that's
if
great.
they're in the first semester or first day, they can submit their enrollment. So just the online enrollment document. And then submit that to the AASW.
Great. And just so you know, everybody, if you did want to join, some of the academics are members. Not everybody is a member, but like I'm a member, so I'm happy to co-sign if you did want to join. I'm happy to support that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What is the AASW doing about the recent increases in social work tertiary education course fees? Is there a sort of work happening that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so without treading on the toes of national, so national office was working quite closely with the federal government on the fee hikes, and we were really concerned about the fee hikes. You know, there were going to be $100,000 degrees for social work degrees, so we were quite concerned. But national office had a seat at the table, and they were collaborating and working with the government, and they were able to negotiate it down to the second lowest band. It's still a fee increase because the university sector broadly has required a fee increase because of austerity measures given COVID and all that, but it's nowhere near the amount that it was. So we see that as a win. What I observe though is that some of our key partners in the field, like the Australian Services Union, the Health Services Union, the Community Public Sector Union, came out more in terms of a campaign, and the College of Social Work did a great campaign as well. And the AASW was really keen just to have a seat at the table and work with the government a bit more on the inside.
Strategic thinking. We've got, if somebody, because everybody's going to scatter into different locations once they finish their degree, how would you find out if there's an AASW group? What's in your your new town? How would you find out if there was one? So
there's a directory on the website, and you can type in the directory and look at the different practice groups happening, and social work networks happening. You can also even get in touch with the state branch and ask what's happening, send an email, and we can get in touch. Even national office has a hotline that you can call through, and they can link you in with a member, a convener, or myself, and we can get you the answer that you need. Yeah. There's somebody saying, is there a chance for a placement with policy advocacy with the AASW? We've had placements, and the AASW. Yeah, that's right. So that will come through the appropriate channels, no doubt. Just not to sort of take the focus away from the AASW, but some people are quite confused about, you do not have to be a member, do you? You know how some of the job ads say you must be eligible for membership. That does not mean you have to be a member in order to go for a particular job. Is that? Yeah, absolutely not. So yeah, you don't have to be a member of the AASW, but it does say that you have to be eligible. And what that means is that you just have to have a BSW or MSW qualifying degree, because that would make you eligible to join the AASW. It's sort of a way that a lot of different job descriptions use that terminology because in other roles you do require membership of a certain organization like APRA and this respective registration body of nurses and teachers and things like that. But the AASW isn't to that point, so it's just eligible for it.
And I got another question, since you sort of cheered at the idea of registration.
Yeah.
What is it that help all of us sort of zero in to why you think registration will really benefit social work?
Yeah, no worries. So social work would benefit quite strongly, but I think that the strong argument is that the public would benefit from it. So it would lift standards around some of the most complex areas of care. So child protection, mental health, domestic violence, homelessness. We work in really complex areas. So it would lift standards because it makes it consistent. There's ongoing CBD, and it also gives confidence to clinicians and social workers on the front line to make some difficult decisions, which if they don't, then sometimes the worst things can happen. I think it builds public confidence and general public confidence. And it also builds the social work profession into, in a more cohesive identity, and it shapes its identity in a better way and in a more collective way. And it allows for social workers to actually get ongoing access to continued professional development, because it's actually part of their ongoing CPD, so it's actually required. And there are some occupations which say that's quite challenging, like teachers say that they can't, they find it difficult to challenge their ongoing CPD with classroom demands, but it's actually legislated and actually part of their ongoing development. So if we don't have that, things can fall from the wayside. And there's also like a whole lot of other things that say that having social worker registration would actually allow for greater opportunities for social work to be involved in policy, in government, and actually part of some really critical decision-making processes. So there's a few of those reasons there.
Yeah, that's a pretty sound case. Would it help with getting better pay, do you think? One of the students was asking, one of the participants is asking, like, how come doesn't really seem to be strong enough recognition of the qualification in the salaries that are offered? Yeah.
So social work salaries do vary across different fields. So if you're looking at the SACS award with generally the community and social services sector generally, that would be different to the health awards, so the HSU awards within health, which has typically been my history. So I've worked within New South Wales Health, and the salaries are very different and tend to be better. But the thing is that social work is a broad church, and it's actually very different to other occupations because they occupy different sectors. So we don't have one union. We have the health services union representation. We have the ASU representation. We have the CPSU representation. Sometimes some other unions as well. So it's very hard to advocate for social workers on a collective way from a ward and enterprise level. And I think what registration would do is actually lift standards and lift the voice of the occupation to actually ask for greater recognition and salary increase, because there's that ongoing development. We also have social workers in really varied spaces. So social workers often become CEOs of their organizations and their health services because they're very good at convening people and doing strategy and taking people on a journey, which as a CEO or a leader, you need to do that. So we occupy a lot of different spaces. So without answering your question, registration would, I think, increase standards and therefore increase opportunities to demand better pay.
It's great. Thank you. Does anybody have a question that you'd like to ask, Jack? I've just put an unfinished summary of the unions on the chat. I think we've kept you. We need to let you go. You're still at work, is that right?
Yeah, I'm still at work. Haven't had lunch yet, so.
Oh yeah. So that's right. Good self-care.
Yes, very good self-care. You need to do that. But thank you for today. And look, like, you know, this, I love this stuff. I live and breathe this stuff. So this was a pleasure to reflect on my work and what I do on my daily basis, but also meeting you, the members. So thank you for that.
No, it's a great opportunity. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to Jack Whitney from the AASW. Awesome. Thanks for your
everyone.
contribution. Have a lovely weekend.
Yes, you too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.